Trump says India will buy oil from Venezuela, not Iran. India dismisses Epstein file claims, rejects allegation Modi sang and danced in Israel for US benefit. Iran considers EU armies as terrorist groups in retaliatory move. Iran Parliament Speaker. Trump says India will buy oil from Venezuela, not Iran. UK Starmer says ex-Prince Andrew should testify before Congress over Epstein ties. US President Donald Trump said on Saturday that India will buy oil from Venezuela, rather than importing oil from Iran. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said the United States and India had already reached an understanding on the arrangement. His comments followed reports that Washington has told New Delhi it could soon resume purchases of Venezuelan crude to help replace Russian oil imports. The move is part of a broader U.S. effort to reduce oil revenues flowing to Russia, which are helping to fund Moscow's war in Ukraine. India had previously curtailed Venezuelan oil imports after U.S. sanctions were imposed. Trump last year introduced 25% tariffs on countries buying Venezuelan oil, including India, as part of Washington's pressure campaign. Trump also said China would be welcome to strike a similar deal with the United States to buy Venezuelan oil, signaling a potential shift in Washington's approach to managing global energy supplies through trade agreements. India has strongly rejected references to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, contained in newly released investigative files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, calling them baseless and offensive. The files were made public by the U.S. Justice Department, which released millions of pages of material connected to Epstein under a law passed by the U.S. Congress. One email from July 2017, cited in media reports, included comments by Epstein referring to Modi's official visit to Israel. Responding to the report, India's External Affairs Ministry said the reference was misleading and should be dismissed. Spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said the only factual element was Modi's official visit to Israel that year, adding that all other remarks in the email were little more than trashy ruminations by a convicted criminal and deserved the utmost contempt. The Indian government stressed that the claims had no credibility and rejected any implication involving the Prime Minister. Iran's Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bahar Khalibaf said on Sunday that Iran now considers the armies of European Union countries to be "terrorist groups," after the EU designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. The European Union's decision, announced on Thursday, marked a significant shift in its policy toward Iran and followed a violent crackdown on nationwide protests, the deadliest since the Islamic Republic was established in 1979. Speaking in Parliament, where lawmakers wore Revolutionary Guards uniforms in a show of support, Khalibaf accused European governments of acting against their own interests and blindly following the United States. He said Iran's response was based on domestic legislation that mandates countermeasures when the Guards are labeled a terrorist organization. Khalibaf said Iran's Parliamentary National Security Commission would consider expelling military attachés from EU countries and would coordinate further action with the Foreign Ministry. US President Donald Trump said on Saturday that India will buy oil from Venezuela instead of importing oil from Iran. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One while traveling to Florida, Trump said the two sides had already agreed in principle on the arrangement. His remarks came after Reuters reported that Washington had told New Delhi it could soon resume purchases of Venezuelan crude to help replace Russian oil imports. India sharply increased imports of Russia's discounted oil after Moscow's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, but that move strained relations with Washington. Last year, Trump doubled tariffs on Indian imports to 50% to pressure New Delhi to curb Russian oil purchases, and warned the rate could rise further. More recently, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent signaled that an additional 25% tariff could be removed, citing a sharp decline in India's imports of Russian oil. The United States has also eased some sanctions on Venezuela's oil sector this week, making it easier for U.S. companies to sell Venezuelan crude and encouraging alternative supplies for major importers. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on Saturday that the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor should testify before a U.S. congressional committee. following new disclosures about his links to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Newly released files from the U.S. Justice Department include emails showing that Andrew remained in regular contact with Epstein for more than 2 years after Epstein was convicted of child sex crimes. The documents also contain redacted images that appear to show Andrew crouching over and touching the waist of an unidentified woman lying on the floor. Starmer said the latest revelations raise serious questions, and that Andrew should cooperate fully with U.S. lawmakers if requested. Andrew, who is the brother of King Charles III, was stripped of his royal titles and removed from his residence on the Windsor Castle estate in November, following earlier disclosures about his association with Epstein.